This is me doing a kickflip to Primo. Or is it?
Primos are one of the most misunderstood tricks to name. And that's because a Primo is not a trick, it's a dude.
This is Primo Desiderio, a staple in the top 5 in freestyle skateboarding competitions in the 80s. His biggest claim to fame was his impeccable 80s style, and also being the first to ever do a sliding railstand, which came to be known as a Primo slide. This is him in action in 1987, performing his signature move. Here he is again in 2002, still at it.
So what exactly is going on here? Long before the Primo slide was invented, there were rail stands. The edge of your board is called the rail, and standing on the rail of your board was, of course, called a rail stand. Doing a flip trick from rail stand was called rail flip. Simple stuff.
So when did it get complicated? October 28, 2001. Not so coincidentally, the release date of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 in North America. Okay, so Tony Hawk already ruined hard flips. What did he do to Primo slides? You might be surprised to learn, pretty much nothing. Let's take a look at the game. In Pro Skater 3, there are a few special manual tricks you can assign, including the Primo slide. Well, what's wrong with that? The only subtle issue here is that they drop slide from the name. Of course, like any other manual trick, you're expected to do it in motion as a way to link other tricks together, and you can't really even do it stationary. No matter how you do it, you still move around at least a little bit.
So what happened is that this game came out and kids wanted to learn this trick. Of course, learning the actual slide part is really difficult, so they did them stationary and used the only name they knew, Primo. Some would try to make it more accurate and say Primo stall. Little did they know that's like saying axle grind or disaster slide. They called the flips Primo flips and started calling it landing Primo when you accidentally land on the rail. There's another weird issue in Pro Skater 3 though. An unknown skateboard anomaly known as the Remo slide. There are 2 rails on your board, the heel side and the toe side. A regular Primo slide is done heel side, but a Remo slide is a toe side Primo slide with a 180 in it. It's clearly named after Kareem Campbell, and it's assigned to him as a special trick. To my knowledge, Kareem Campbell never did any freestyle on video, but it's not that unlikely that he did this trick a couple of times. A lot of street skaters find toe side to be easier because you start on the bolts, tip the board, jump, and land on it. It's more familiar. Heel side is actually easier because you can step onto it without ever losing contact with the board, but it's a more unnatural feeling for people who aren't used to it. So if you ask a street skater to do a Primo, chances are it will be toe side.
In the book Skateboarding Legendary Tricks 2, Tori Pudwell demonstrates Primo slides and he does a toe side. In Pro Skater 3, every skater had some kind of special manual trick. It's possible that Kareem never even did one of these before, but they gave it to him to pad out his trick list. And because it's a special trick, they had to give it a name, so they simply named it after him. Remo rhymes with Primo. Maybe they came up with the name first and worked it out from there. If you search YouTube for Remo slide, you'll see videos of kids doing stationary toe side rail stands. Luckily this name has mostly been forgotten over the years, but it caused a lot of fights on the internet years ago. Although Pro Skater 3 included some freestyle tricks, they didn't really go all in until number 4. Let's see how this one handles it. Surprisingly, again, not bad. This time you're actually expected to be doing the freestyle stuff stationary. Nobody really does stuff like pogos in motion. In the game you have to start a freestyle combo from a manual. If you were to do a manual into a rail stand, you would indeed say manual to rail, or Casper to rail. So it is actually correct. It's just that they never gave a standalone name for the trick. Rail flip is actually accurate. It's just more common to do a varial 1.5 flip, but that's not a big deal.
So again, kids were confused. They would say things like, I did a to rail, or I did a Primo to rail flip to rail. Primo was the standalone name of the trick, and to rail is what you would say in combos. It's a mess. Search YouTube for Primo skateboarding and see how many mistakes you'll see. Unfortunately, since this started 15 years ago, it's been plenty of time for really good skaters to come around who grew up thinking this way. It's not uncommon to see experienced pro-level skaters use Primo incorrectly. But this time, I can't blame Birdman. His games are actually accurate in this, except for the whole Remo debacle. It's just that lots of kids misunderstood it, and there wasn't a big online freestyle community to set things straight back then. But not you, now you know better. Well, that's all for this time. What other weird tricks would you like to see me cover in the future? Let me know in the comments. Thanks.